The Shure MV7 Plus is a microphone designed with podcasters and streamers in mind. But does it sound good enough, and is it worth the money? Spoiler, it is a really good mic, but in this review you're going to find out what it can do, hear it in action, and I'll give you my verdict on whether it's worth the money. So the MV7 Plus is an upgraded version to the MV7, which Shure released as a kind of USB alternative to the Shure SM7B. So the MV7 Plus is a dynamic microphone, which means it's less sensitive than its condenser microphone counterparts, like the Blue Yeti, for example. It has a USB connection and an XLR connection. The USB connection is going to allow you to plug it directly into your computer and record without the need for any additional equipment, whereas the XLR connection will require an audio interface for you to plug into before plugging the interface into your computer. You'll also find a 3.5mm headphone jack on the base, which you can use to monitor the recording directly and also hear what's coming out of your computer. It has a built-in clamp for attaching to a mic stand or a boom arm, and it also has this LED panel as well, which you can either use for monitoring your input. As you'll see, it goes from green to orange and red the louder I speak, or you can set it to a solid color like I've done here, and it goes pretty bright. You'll also notice that it has a big foam pop filter on top, which is nice because that's going to prevent those windy P sounds, the plosives, from ruining your recordings. And the Motive Mix software also comes included, which we'll have a look in just a moment, which you're going to need if you want to change the settings when you're using the mic with the USB input. So the most important thing, of course, with any mic is the sound. So I've plugged the microphone in via USB, which is what I'm presuming most of you will be using anyway. And I've loaded up this Motive Mix software. So you can download that just from the Shure website for free. And if you want to change the settings on the mic, you need to use this software. When you load it up, it actually gives you some tips on setting the mic up and positioning it. It does mention that you should keep the mic placement between around 6 and 12 inches from your mouth. I disagree. I don't think 12 inches is anywhere near close enough. I'd suggest keeping the mic between 4 and 6 inches from your mouth to ensure you get that intimate broadcast style sound. So you can see the mic input here, and you can increase or decrease the input from here. So if you want to reduce it, then you won't be able to do that on the mic itself. You'll have to come into the Motive Mix app and adjust your level. So it's hovering around the middle to avoid getting any nasty clipping or anything. You can also mute the mic from here, but that is something that you can do by tapping the LED on the mic itself. And if you click on this settings icon, then this is where we can change a bunch of the settings. So hopefully my face isn't covering it, but there is a mute lock button here to stop the mic from being able to be muted. We've got automatic gain. So it sort of works like a compressor, but it's basically just increasing and reducing the volume as you speak. I'd rather keep this off personally, and you can just adjust this manually and make sure that it's not too loud or too quiet in the first place, so that you know exactly what level your input is. We also have a compressor. And what the compressor does, if we turn this on to light, is if the audio is loud enough, it will start decreasing the volume of the peaks to give you a more smooth overall balanced level. Now, personally, again, I'd rather have more control over the compression and edit this in, mix this in post-production. But if you want to make things easier on yourself, or you're not comfortable with using compression and things and mixing vocals, then it might be worth playing around with these settings. If we click on heavy now, we can see that even when I speak loudly, it's reducing the volume of those words, whereas when I turn the compressor off, it's peaking quite heavily. And then we've also got a limiter here, which is going to prevent clipping, which is where if the level goes too high, if it goes above 0, it creates a nasty digital distortion noise. You can turn this simply off and on. And I was getting some digital distortion when I turned the level up quite high anyway. Not sure if we're gonna get any of that now. Let me just turn the monitor on so I can hear myself through the mic. And yeah, so if we turn it too loud, you are getting a little bit of digital distortion without the limiter on. If I turn the limiter if I turn the limiter on, I'm still getting a little bit of digital distortion. So, I mean, it doesn't really affect the signal negatively in any way, so it might be worth having just as a safety net. But again, it's best to just set your level correctly in the first place. And speaking of monitoring there, I can change what I can hear because the headphones are plugged directly into the microphone now. So if I don't want to hear myself speaking, I could turn that off. And if I don't want to hear the PC audio, then I can turn that off as well. I'm just gonna leave that on for now so I can hear what I'm doing. Then we also have some tone options as well. So this is basically EQ. It's turning up certain levels of the frequency spectrum, like the lows or the highs, to make it sound more kind of bright. If we turn it up to bright, then you can hear it sounds quite crispy. And then if we turn it down to dark, you're getting a little bit more warmth on there. Again, I prefer to leave it in the middle, but out the box, if you're not going to be doing any mixing, you might want to turn it down a little bit to the dark. Bright sounds just too harsh to me, but I quite like what they've done with the dark tone on here, just to add a little bit of warmth. We've also got the built-in reverb, which is a new thing. So you can make it sound like you're in a particular space. So I'm going to apply to output so you can hear that, and direct monitoring so I can hear it. Wow. So yeah, you've got studio, which is a bit of a kind of makes it sound like you're in a bit of a smaller room, and you can turn that down. Personally, for podcasters, this probably isn't really going to be of any use unless you're trying to do some kind of specific style or something. So if you were recording in a big hall, you can do your best Halo theme tune impression. But I can't see how that would be useful in a podcasting situation. And then we've got a real-time denoiser to reduce the level of noise. So if you've got something noisy on in your room, like a fan or something, or there's just something going on within your system that's causing noise, you can use that to turn it off. So if I just leave the denoiser on for a minute and then turn it off, you can hear that there is some low-level noise that's being caused just by the setup itself as part of the microphone. Now, you don't get this when you're connected via XLR. It's just something with the USB connection. Now it's up to you. If you're comfortable with applying noise reduction after recording, then you might not need this, but otherwise it does work quite nicely. The popper stopper, I haven't really found any use for this. I mean, without it turned on, you've got a nice robust pop filter already built in. So if I say something like Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, you're not really getting any plosives anyway. And then if I say it again with the popper stopper on, Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, you're not hearing much difference there anyway. And then with the high pass filter, again, this is more EQing. We can cut out some of the very low level signal. So I'd leave it on that personally if you weren't doing any mixing on 75, just to cut out that low level rumble that we don't need. You can go even higher with the 150 hertz high pass filter, or you can just leave it off. And then finally, there's a setting there for changing the behavior of the LEDs. Another little bonus feature about this app is you can actually record directly on the app itself, but you're probably going to be using some other software for that. But it is nice just for making a test recording, for example. And for completion's sake, this is an example of recording through the mic with the XLR connection. So when you're recording through the XLR connection, it's going to sound more or less the same, but it does give you less self noise, and then you don't need to worry so much about using any noise cancellation after the fact. It's a nice sounding mic. It doesn't sound as good out the box as the Shure SM7B, but it still sounds good enough, and it just needs a little bit of EQing after the fact. Just to give you a demonstration, this is what it sounds like with some EQ and compression applied. So all in all, it's an excellent mic, and this is the microphone that we recommend to our podcaster clients. And the reason is because it pretty much has everything you need out the box. It's easy to set up. You've got the option for USB or XLR. It's got the built-in pop filter, which is going to avoid us having to fix all those plosives. And it's got the look as well. It's got that professional, high-quality look, which I know some podcasters, that's important to them. It isn't the cheapest mic out there. The price ranges from about $250 to £300 or dollars. And there are a couple of tweaks that, in my opinion, would make the mic even better. For example, the LED panel on the front. It looks nice, but it's actually a little less versatile than in the previous version of the mic. You can't adjust the input volume on the mic itself, and you can't switch monitoring off and things like that. Also, the USB connection on the bottom feels a little bit wobbly. I'm not sure how long that would last if you were repeatedly pulling in and out the USB cable. This is kind of an issue in general with USB mics, I find, especially ones with the smaller USB-C connection. But that being said, I haven't had any issues with it so far, and obviously if you were using the XLR connection instead, that wouldn't be an issue. So if you've picked up this mic, or if you're thinking of picking up this mic, leave a comment below. And for more podcast-related reviews and tips and tutorials, hit that subscribe button. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.